Agam, no doubt a big overhang over Infosys goes away.
Yeah, well, the problem is not completely over because investigations with respect to the SEC are still on. But as far as well, the Indian component in all the investigations taken up by the audit committee are concerned, well, it does put to rest a lot of concerns with respect to the allegations which were put forward by the whistleblowers back in October 2019. So in terms of the audit committee and their findings, and of course this was led by Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas as the legal firm which was aiding in terms of investigations, and of course PricewaterhouseCoopers in terms of the audit firm which was also looking into all these matters. Well, they do say that they found no evidence of financial impropriety or, for that matter, no evidence of executive misconduct. They've also said that allegations regarding the treasury policy were also found unsubstantiated, and this was essentially directed towards the CEO Salil Parekh and Nilanjan Roy, who was the CFO of the company. Of course, back in October, these allegations came to the fore by these whistleblowers, which is why the company did take up allegations. And for now, well, the main part of this entire issue is now, it seems that it is behind us. So the event risk has reduced substantially over this.
Yeah, and maybe that helps in the valuation gap as well. But we'll get to that, Agam. Just firstly, a verdict from you on how did you find the numbers? Investors likely to not be too disappointed here either. So in line with expectations, including the guidance, I'm going to very quickly take you all through the numbers. So we do see a 1% uptick on a quarter-on-quarter basis when it comes to your constant currency terms, as well as in dollar revenue terms. You've seen a 1% rise in rupee revenues. It's up as much as 2%. We've seen a little bit of an expansion in margins as well, to the tune of around 20 basis points. And the profit number looks a lot higher. That's around 11% sequentially. Why? That's because the base quarter had a one-off due to reclassification of a certain asset, which is why the company did take a one-time loss. If you leave that aside, the big talking point, I suppose, here is the guidance, which was revised upwards to 10 to 10.5% versus 9 to 10% earlier. And again, this was also an expected line because at least 4 broking houses were expecting the higher end of the guidance to be raised. Of course, they raised the lower end as well. So that, of course, is also positive. All in all, it was a very steady quarter, and I've been going through all the broking notes this morning as well as over the weekend, and no one has changed their ratings. We have seen marginal increases in price targets, but a lot of the earnings were in line with expectations. Perhaps the positive here was the early resolution of the whistleblower allegations. Agam, I have 2 questions, both related to earnings. One, the fact that they have spoken, they sound very confident despite the BFSI weakness about the outlook ahead, which probably is also explained in the way the headcount addition has been, right? So one, is that a net positive? And 2, this whole conversation around the valuation gap closing in, which had expanded after this whistleblower allegations. People that you've spoken to, have they alluded to this being a key driver as well?
Right. Okay, so I'll come to the first part when it comes to their onboarding. We know that the company has seen so much in terms of total contract wins and total contract value over the previous few quarters. At $1.8 billion, this has been the lowest in the past six odd quarters. So the company has gotten that much momentum in terms of the kind of contract value that we have seen in terms of deals signed, which is why the onboarding taking place is quite natural. The attrition has been lower as well, according to the management, so that of course is a positive. Coming down to the valuation gap, yes, to a certain extent Infosys already had started closing in on that valuation gap, especially after the volatile period that we saw in October. But of course, clearly, let's see how things pan out. But for now, it does seem like we may very well see further gains and the further closure of the valuation gap between Infosys and TCS.
Yeah, 20, 25, 28%. And if that closes in, there's a bit of a natural tailwind for Infosys as well. I have just one final question. Anything around Infosys commentary spells either slightly tough news for the rest of the pack? Because BFSI, we note, was weak for Infosys. Now, Infosys has these other triggers, which is the clean chit on the whistleblower allegations, etc., which might help the stock.
Sure.
Can it be a cloud for some of the others?
Well, but this is something that we've been talking about the past few quarters, that the weakness is there. And I posed this question to Praveen Rao, and he says that there are still a lot of difficulties, not just in BFSI, but in retail as well. And the industry for now is struggling. They just seem to be doing slightly better than the industry for now.